Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Sam. I'm the Community Engagement Librarian at the Barrington Area Library. And today we're talking about zero waste holidays. So as Community Engagement Librarian, I get to work for the benefit of and alongside the nonprofits here in the Barrington area. And Go Green Barrington and I have partnered frequently to bring you a number of things. So we're excited about the panel that we've put together today. We have Jennifer as the founder of Go Green Barrington. Amy Bartucci is here from Go Green Park Ridge, and Cecilia Anderson with the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County. So thank you all for being here, and I am going to pass things over to Jennifer.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm going to work at sharing my screen here. All right. Again, my name's Jennifer Lucas, and I'm with Go Green Barrington, and we're co-hosting this program with the Barrington Area Library. And I want to thank all of you for attending, and then for those of you who will watch it when it's recorded, and a special thank you to the Signal Hill chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution and the League of Women Voters of the Palatine area. Both groups did a great job of advertising the program, which shows their commitment to environmental action. So to get started, before we even mention the great number of facts about the trash that's created during the holiday season, we all know that to be true. We see our neighbors' trash cans piled with extra trash and overflowing with wrapping paper. And in fact, Americans throw away 25% more trash from Thanksgiving to New Year's than any other time of the year. But even though it's an awful time for trash, it's also a great time for all of us to be ambassadors of environmental action. We see our relatives, we see our friends, we can tell them what we're doing, maybe an idea for a gift that doesn't require a box or a bag. We can tell them things we're doing with decorations that can be reused. So we can all be ambassadors at this time of the year, even though it's a great time of the year for trash. And to motivate ourselves or to motivate our relatives that we're getting together with, there's some shocking facts about holiday waste. Thousands of trees are cut down for wrapping paper. We'll hear more about how a lot of this wrapping paper cannot be recycled. Over 2 billion holiday cards are sent each year. And of course, the plastic waste explodes during the holiday season. We can all make efforts to use reusable materials. And of course, food waste also rises sharply. I was shocked that during Thanksgiving week alone, Americans throw away 200 million pounds of turkey and 14 million pounds of dinner rolls. So these are things that can remind us to get motivated to make changes. And can we make a difference? The answer is yes. Even if we can't do everything perfectly, we can make a difference. Even if these are facts from Stanford University, that if every family reused just a little bit of ribbon, miles and miles of ribbon would be saved. If every family wrapped just 3 presents in reusable materials, it would save tons of paper. So we can make an effort by reducing, even if we can't do everything perfectly. And with that in mind, it's my pleasure to introduce Cecilia Anderson, or we call her Cece, of the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County. She's also studying for her master's degree, so I'll have her tell us a little bit about what she's studying before she tells us about recycling issues and some other ideas today. So Cece, I will stop sharing my screen and turn it over to you.
All right, let's see. Get this one shared up here. All right, is everyone able to see that? My PowerPoint here. Okay. So yeah, I'm Cece. I'm an intern here at Swank. I'm currently studying my MPA, so I'm studying my master's in public administration. I'm hoping to eventually do something in sustainability consulting or sustainability work, but within the public sector, because there's a need for it right now, and I think that we can make the most difference for the environment in our local government, in the public sector. So as far as holiday tips today goes, that I was going to give, what can be recycled is pretty limited, as far as the holidays goes. So at least as far as recycling goes, we want to kind of I don't want to say avoid it, but we want to avoid waste in general. So we want to come up with solutions that avoid garbage in all, because most of the things that we're producing over the holidays cannot be recycled. I mean, wrapping paper. So I put wrapping paper on there, but again, you have to keep in mind that shredded paper can't be recycled, and it can't be recycled if it's all, crumpled and taped and messy. So wrapping paper is very limited as far as what can be recycled. It needs to be set up in a very specific way. So avoiding wrapping paper is probably better off in general, so that we can avoid waste. And then same with paper cards. So if you do feel the need to send a paper card, make sure that it's a recyclable one. Like, make sure there's no mixed materials on there. So it's just made of paper. It doesn't have glitter and metallic ornaments and things sticking onto it, because as soon as that stuff's on there, it's not recyclable, and then it's just going to go right to the landfill. So we want to avoid those kinds of items for sure. And again, so do not recycle these kinds of things. Holiday lights are another big one. So holiday lights, unfortunately, can't be recycled in your curbside. They're a tangler when it comes to recycling systems. So if you were to put a light like that into a recycling bin and then it ended up going through the MRF, it could get tangled in sorting material and then close down the whole MRF for a very long time. So that's like worst case scenario, is throwing those in the recycling cart. But Swank, at least, if you're in a Swank region, I know Barrington is, they offer holiday recycling programs at most of our public works, collects them. So you can always go and find at almost any Swank community that there's definitely somewhere to recycle your holiday lights. And then that way they're actually recycled and they're not just getting sent to the landfill. So there's some use coming out of them. Another thing too is, if you're going to be hosting a festive holiday thing, I know we all hate dishes. Dishes are not the best. Obviously, nobody wants to sit, and then especially if you have a ton of people over. But it is a great way to reduce waste by not having plastic cutlery and foam cutlery and plastic cups and things like that. Just using reusable things and then washing them is going to be the best thing as far as waste-free and your, for dinner. And also as far as food waste, making sure that you're packing up any food you have to send home with your family and your friends, because again, as Jennifer was saying, there's a ton of food and a ton of things wasted, and we can only really make an impact together. So, it becomes as far as collective action, because recycling feels so minute and a small scale when you're doing it by yourself, but all together, when there's tons of things being recycled and tons of things taken out of the garbage, it really does make a difference. So additional tips. One thing I really like to suggest is doing treasure hunts, or doing step-by-step hunts. Kids love those kinds of things, even if it's not a big gift. If it's like one of your bigger gifts, like, if it's an electronic item, like an iPad or something fancy that they've been dying for, and you want to add that, that little bit more, under the tree, just have a little piece of paper and be like, go up here, go find this, and then do a little treasure hunt to find the thing. And then you don't even have to wrap it. And then it's just a great adventure. They're going to remember that way more than they're going to ever remember ripping the paper off of something. So another thing I like, an idea, is to make nature ornaments. So I know nowadays it's very like chic and in and boho to make things out of twigs and sticks. And I think that that's a great idea. Especially with your kids, they go outside on a treasure hunt for things and then come home and make ornaments out of them. Because ornaments are wasteful too, in a way. A lot of times those ornaments do last you through the holidays, but glass breaks. And you don't want to go and spend money on these ornaments and things like that, and then adding into, again, more waste. So yeah, wasteless gifts are also one of my biggest suggestions, I believe. I think it's so easy to go onto my Starbucks app and my Chipotle app and pick a gift card sign and then send it to the email and schedule it on somebody's birthday, or on Halloween, on Christmas. I think that those are the best kinds of gifts as far as being waste free, that electronic gifts. And then this way someone can buy something that they actually want and they're not going to end up throwing away. So I think that it's a waste free in the sense of you're not sending any packaging, but you're also not risking buying something that maybe this person isn't going to fit in or isn't going to want to wear, and just getting them a gift card, and then for sure that whatever they buy isn't going to end up being wasteful. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. As far as tips go, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I think I know how to do this. I know how to do this.
No problem. The going back and forth between speakers is tough.
There we go. Okay.
All right, and then I should go back to sharing. So thank you, Cece. And just to add, you know, you're free to email me with ideas for other gifts that don't need boxes and packages. I know that we have some representatives of other nonprofits in our audience. And of course, a great thing to do for a package-free gift is to make a donation somewhere in someone's name and say that, you know, your gift this year is that I donated to this organization. So many ideas. So these are some of the things that Cece touched on, but specifically in the area of wrapping, if we do have to have a wrapped gift rather than something that doesn't even need a box, we could use the idea of a scavenger hunt, like Cece said, or use some of these ideas, excuse me, use materials that can be reused. I had a nephew that was a runner, and I found a pillowcase with tennis shoes all over it. And so I wrapped his gift in a pillowcase. But there's, you know, reusable tins, things that we can use from one year to another. And many of you are familiar with Tattered Teaks, a store in Barrington on Pepper Road. And they were nice enough to make some examples for us of wrapping with reusable items. They used grocery bags and items from their yard to make these examples for us. So again, things that can be reused or recycled easily. And then the same is true for holiday decorations. Rather than buying cheap plastic items that are shipped from China, we can buy secondhand. We can use nature materials. We also have many vintage shops in the area. And this wreath, and then I'll turn to another screen. The wreath made of ornaments is made from ornaments that were partly broken or bought at vintage shops. And again, these were made by the Tattered Teaks women on Pepper Road. And then they made the fall wreath out of pine cones and buckeyes from the area. So again, using reusable materials, you could make centerpieces out of similar materials. But the idea is things that can be reused rather than creating more waste. And now it's my honor to introduce Amy Bartucci. And Amy has a huge list of environmental credentials. And I'm sure I don't have them all here, but she's the Illinois Food Scrap Coalition Administrative Coordinator, the We Compost Committee Co-Chair, the founder of Go Green Park Ridge. She's on the steering committee for the Coalition for Plastic Reduction and a volunteer for the Evanston Community Fridge Program. She is an enthusiastic advocate for the environment and a mentor to many of us. And I encourage you to look up these organizations because they have great information to share. Plus, it'd be great to have some of these ideas come to our Northwest suburbs. So I will stop sharing, excuse me, and let Amy tell us about food waste at the holidays.
Thank you so much for the welcome and the introduction. I'm hoping you can see my slides here. Hi to everybody. I wanted to say I'm in a unique spot right now, but it's perfect for the theme, at least at this portion of the presentation, because I'm going to be talking about food, and it is one of my favorite topics. A little background is that I'm in a store. I'm an employee at a micro grocer in Evanston, and part of the role I play here is to help support food system initiatives that are new and a little bit let's just say unique, and also something that I get excited about to reimagine our future with a food system that is fair and just and healthy. So reducing food waste is one of the things that I want to make sure that we address today. But Jennifer, thank you for inviting me, and also Cece for meeting you for the first time on Zoom, but you've been kind of overlapping some of the work we've done in the Illinois Food Scrap Coalition. And Sam, nice to meet you. I put on this slide just a little bit of who I am and in the future, if this gets sent out, you can contact me through any of my social media accounts, or Jennifer knows how to get in touch with me as well. So reimagining the food system is one thing I wanted to make sure we started talking about. I won't go too far into detail about why I care, but I want to give you one quick little story about how I got here. A couple of years ago, I was very involved in full-time working for a sustainability nonprofit, and all that I cared and did in my work full-time was environmental conversation, initiatives, programs, etc. During that time, we were also about to just embark on shutting the world down food-wise with the pandemic. And I realized this was a moment for me to take a little bit of a zoom out in my role as an environmentalist and an activist, and spend a lot of time on food. So I got involved a little bit more holistically through my work here at the farm stand, through the Illinois Food Scrap Coalition as the administrative coordinator, focusing on reducing food waste through food recycling, and then became a stewardship board member to try to connect all this idea about where our food comes from in this state. And then I wanted to be boots on the ground and really feed people and figure out what this issue is in regards to food waste and why we were having a hard time addressing the need throughout the world. I am really a foodie. I love to grow food. I like to plan ahead. I like to scratch cook at home. So food is really one of those things in the last few years I've dove deeply in. So I've cobbled together part-time work in addition to my volunteer work to be able to talk about having a more just food system in the future. This is a slide that shows you a little bit about what made me do that zoom out. I realized we had already been dealing with this idea of food security being an issue, and on top of that, we had the pandemic that addressed the fact that we were disconnected from our food system. We did not have a plan for feeding people when the world started shutting down. So I was really considering myself somebody who could be an instrument for change by pulling back and not being in conversation, but actually being in activity. So I did get involved as a volunteer and just found my way through realizing how to do this work to kind of figure out the connection between what we do as eaters to have all of us on this planet trying to nourish ourselves, and at the same time, out of respect, feel the need to have that holistic look and say, let's make sure our food system is addressing all of these concerns that we have for everybody. So I'm sure you've seen some of these types of pictures, but it became really apparent to me that I needed to be more of a boots on the ground kind of person to figure out how I can bring this back into the work with the environmental field. Again, these are other pictures that made me stop and look and say to myself, I'm going to rethink the way I eat and serve and feel about food with my family, and at the same time bring that into the community work that I do. Why this is connected to what I had done previously before I made this part-time cobbled together new life in the food system is because I had already known that the Sustainable Development Goals were telling us that food in landfills is causing greenhouse gas emissions. That is an untenable way to live for anybody on this planet. We have been negligent, we have been irresponsible, we have also not been transparent in regards to where food is grown and then where it goes. And following that food, as somebody related to this work has been able to say, we have to ask bold questions, we have to stay on top of things, we have to figure out what it is about this food system that we can fix. So you'll see some of these signs. I've been in some marches before, and at the same time I'm also somebody who just supports people who are marching to figure out what it is that the role everyone can play in this change that we'll see in the future. In the upper right hand corner is the book you may have seen, Paul Hawken's Drawdown, and as an environmentalist that was something like very, very present in my mind, like how are we going to be fixing these environmental concerns that have piled up and really become something that is of urgency in our lives. I wanted to take a minute to talk about the 3rd and the 13th, I believe, being food related. So in this book of 100 solutions to be able to draw down carbon and address the climate issues we're having, food is the third most important or most achievable thing that anyone in this Zoom or outside of this Zoom can do, which is reducing food waste in the first place. So prevention is a lot of what we can all hand in hand together to do for collective action to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in landfills. In the teens, it's 13 or 16, composting. So we want to address the idea of having food for people, and you can also say that there's also people who are diverting food from landfills to feed farm animals. But composting is like 13 or 16 in this book. So just keeping that in mind, that even though food scrap collection to be diverted from landfills is a climate solution, thinking about not having that surplus in the first place to be able to divert that now so that we are feeding people is really what we need to do to change our system. Our system has been overproducing and not delivering to hungry people throughout the entire world. You'll see some quotes on this slide in regards to another reason, just keeping that in check for me made very, my marching orders were there. I knew that we had a problem environmentally, and I knew that as somebody who has energy and the ability to get out and make the connections in communities, I was going to make sure that this was not something far from my mind when I would wake up every day in this new job that I recreated for myself. So prevention is the thing that we want to focus on here. And at the same time, I wanted to inspire you on this call to think about you in your own home, or somebody who may eat at restaurants, to be able to take these matters into your own hands, to be able to think in advance to the holidays. So this is the way I spend the entire year trying to think of reducing food waste. But again, there's probably some new on-ramps for you to be able to do this if this is a new journey that you're on to reduce food waste. So I hope to tell you about some of those things, but also know everyone who is an eater can be a player in making change. So one of the things I've learned with the reducing food waste and the importance with that is that the highest resource farming products, which are animal products and fruits and vegetables, are those that are the most intensively grown and produced, and at the same time the worst to waste. So you really want to think about that when you are getting out there making your shopping list. And if you have produce on your list, and if you are going to be serving animal products, etc., really think about your plan in your house or with your families about how you would make certain that the food that you buy is going to be consumed, and have a plan for if you have surplus. So I wanted to just flag that for a little bit to make sure we're really in this new imagined food system, focusing on the fresh items, not just for nutrition, but also for value and how it is to be sustainably and responsibly managing those products. I just thought that some of the quotes on this slide about how much we waste and how often and how bad it's gotten has just been really makes my stomach turn. But I don't stay there very long. I really try to think about what I can do to be able to make an impact for the better. So reducing food waste during the holidays. This is just a little checklist. And again, if you were able to get this presentation sent out, the first link up there is one of my favorite places to stop and Google. It's Love Food, Hate Waste. This is a place where you'll find simple hacks and tips and guidance to make food become of very high value in your home, and at the same time prevent some of that food waste that you may have fallen to in the past. So making a plan is really a super big tip that this Love Food Hate Waste site can give you. I wanted to tell you that storage is also something that website addresses. You can go into the directory on the site, and if you have a food item that you're notoriously wasting at home accidentally, you can just rethink how that storage of that food item can give you a little bit more longevity out of it, so that you can prevent it from having to go into the landfill or compost. So there's a directory there. For me, it's sometimes basil in the summer, and how to store that better. Cilantro also is another thing that I end up hoping that I've learned these hacks to be able to make sure that every bit of those that gets in my fridge doesn't turn brown. And so again, these are just a couple of the items, but there's so many ways. Here at the store, we do the same thing with trying to address how to have food stored properly. And I absolutely love some of the images that we have here as employees, because this micro grocer on Wednesdays is close to the public, but we get all our food ready from the farmers for retail. And we have bins that we're sorting and weighing our food. And we have this these cheesecloth type of, I should say, flour sack towels that we tuck the food into the bin to make it properly stored. And sometimes we need to moisten that towel. Sometimes we need to make sure it's on the bottom. It's literally having so much value put on the front end of our food, so that when we know when we're ready to taste and we're ready to prepare, it's just as beautiful as it was the day it was harvested. So again, these are, there's time in between harvest and then to table, but at the same time, there's tips that Love Food Hate Waste can provide for you to keep your food longer in the house. I wanted to make sure that storage is something everyone's thinking about as well. Our fridge has become kind of like Tetris, where we use a lot of glass containers. We also make certain that food that we want to eat more quickly or sooner, so that we see it, to reduce food waste is something. So I've seen folks actually create bins in their own refrigerators that say, eat first, or this is next, or just have a bin that you really want to prioritize to make sure it doesn't get shoved to the back. So again, Love Food Hate Waste and that entire site will give you these tips that help you to manage your fridge more often. I do think that food prep also does a lot on the front end for you to make sure you're using your food before your guests, or before your big recipes and your menu planning. So you can see that food, you can also get the best use out of it, and then also have all, different alternatives on how you're going to use your food prep that you've gotten ready for your recipes. So again, a lot of pre-planning, a lot of work on the front end, but it saves in the end. And then third on this checklist, I wanted to mention about, having extra food from an event is something you should, either try to stay away from so that you don't have food waste, or plan for. But the third step with that, if you're planning for that extra food and you're having guests over, providing containers for people on their way out, whether it be your used ones that you've had from your carryout, or you purchased a set that ends up being the item that you want to give as a host or a hostess. But if you have those containers, part of your pre-planning of your event, you're going to really be able to reduce the amount of food waste that occurs overall. So nobody wants the entire fridge full of the same food you just consumed. And I think if you're all going to be planning at the same time during the holidays, over the few weeks, you can also give that gift to somebody. And if it is a home cooked meal, say to yourself, like, I really enjoyed preparing this, whatever it is, I want you to take some home, so you're thinking of me when you have this next time. So I've just used food as a inroad to have conversations with people, and I stock up and make sure that those containers are available when I want to send it home with a loved one. A little bit of bad news is that the nation has not gotten their date labels figured out. The date labeling on food has caused a lot of confusion. I would say it's also caused unnecessary concern. The language that are on the date labels are not universal right now. So we have a ton of people thinking that certain things really are spoiled or unsafe to eat, and that is actually not the case. Hopefully, and I can't give you any deadline to say that this is going to happen, but I know this is happening at our national level, that by streamlining those date labels, the confusion is best by or sell by and things like that have been going around in all different areas of the supply chain. Once the universal date labeling happens, we're going to have a much more confident way to move about in the food space. Right now, you won't believe it, but the big test is the smell test. You can't rely on those dates all that much, and it doesn't sound like the easiest thing to break into. And I'm just telling you that that's in the food rescue area. People have just really let their guard down on that. The idea of those date labels not setting us up for success should be the first thing you think of when you see those labels. If you're caring about feeding other people, really step aside and think to yourself, would this be something I would eat? if it is something that you would eat, there's a way that you can circulate that in your own networks. I'm willing to talk more about the community fridge movement if people are interested in that. And I know it was mentioned by Jennifer, but I just want to say I got involved in the food rescue and the community fridge movement by actually at first being involved in the Chicagoland area one, where there's 30 fridges throughout the Chicagoland area. And Evanston started working along that same model, but being outside of the Chicago boundaries. They have these fridges. And the biggest thing is the 24/7 access to food in these fridges for those that are food insecure. The bonus is, and this is why I still volunteer for the community fridge movement, is that it's stigma free. You can go to a fridge. The motto is take what you need, leave what you can. And there's a tremendous amount of respect and solidarity about figuring out that food is something that every human needs to live and have a nutritional foundation to be able to support their lives and then actually live quality lives over time. So this movement has really changed a lot of the way I believe in having my own food with my family, but at the same time, sharing resources. And then last, and it is about food prep on here in your party mode, using all the ends and stems. Like you wouldn't believe if you look up recipes on how you can make scrappy appetizers and things that you probably hadn't used in the past. I've seen people taking cauliflower leaves and doing something really tasty out of those, whether or not they're sauteing them or making them into a chip by roasting them. So just using the ends and stems when you can, and also looking that up to find out some unique recipes for the future. It will really help reduce what's heading out of your kitchen. I wanted to address composting really quick because I did a little Zoom or a Googling of the area in regards to where you're at. And I just wanted to let you know, like, composting is alive and well, and we need to keep making it that way for our neighborhoods and our families. In Illinois, we have around 60 municipalities that are offering a curbside option. And I think that's something great, and also something to realize that it's also often not taken advantage of. So I did look up, I'm not certain of everybody's background here, but that Barrington has a seasonal pickup curbside. So making certain that you're really using what you have available to you in your community. And then I also noticed that there's a free residential drop-off nearby. So on the bottom, you can see the tips of what can be composted and what is not accepted during the program there that you have there. But I shouldn't put the first thing last, but I'm mentioning I'm a backyard composter. So I have a different way about how I move with my food scraps because I don't use any of the input being meat or bones or dairy in my backyard pile. But we do have our compost old compost. It's not actually turning really in the winter, but we do have our food scraps in our backyard to be able to still break down, and in the spring really have something that we can harvest for our own backyard. Jennifer and I work in a space to reduce plastics, and so we wanted to bring up a little bit of that in regards to food. And I wanted to just show you this image that I'm sure some of you think similarly. When we see this prepackaged food, we say, what the heck, a banana already has its own packaging, or an orange, the rind does not need to have a styrofoam tray and plastic surrounding it. But the third thing that you also may think of when you see these pictures is that the system has actually made people think that buying things in the plastic on the tray will preserve the food longer, but it's actually a myth. It actually spoils more quickly. This plastic is not going to be benefiting you by any stretch of the means. So please, rethink the way you're shopping and seeing things in and out of your errands when you're running, because there is a way to see and how you can purchase this type of food without all of that extra excessive plastic. It's really created a myth here to be able, and some of us have fallen into that, and I want to make sure this plastic connection comes up. So also looking into where you can do that in the grocery store. When there are oranges, sometimes I'll end up buying them singly and put them in my single-use produce bags versus get a bag of oranges, because I know that bag is something that's not really easily recyclable. So those kinds of are options that you can take care of. And again, if you are recycling your film, that's a great thing. You can keep your plastic film separate in your house and give it to a take back location. The communities are really starting to increase those opportunities for making sure plastic has its own kind of closed loop for its system. But for me, for many people, I know Jennifer too, we really want to try to reduce the amount of plastic we're getting and bringing into our homes in the first place. And if anybody has other examples of that, I'm open to talking about that at Q&A. But basically, I just wanted to close by saying, food, if you use that as your, driving force when you're hosting and you think about the value behind everything, every single thing you're serving, hopefully your guests are going to be super excited about what you put on their plate or you have in the buffet. And at the same time, be ready to have the idea of surplus addressed if you are able to donate that or send that home with people versus having it landfill, because the options are available to us. You have composting in the area. We need to be creative. We need to plan ahead. Reducing food waste is really just something I believe in. So I hope everybody was able to keep up with my rapid fire comments, but I'm going to stick around for a while, especially if anyone has any questions. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm excited to get some containers ready so that when people leave my house, I can send them home. They can't have the excuse that they didn't bring a container. I'll send them with it. I'm going to share my screen again just for one final screen from me, and then we will have questions. So just one last topic before we turn it over to questions to our guest speakers. And that is, at the holiday season, we need to address the issue of trees. I mean, if we're talking about reducing waste at the holidays. So if you're in the market to decide what tree to buy, all the facts point to getting a real tree. While it grows on a farm, it cleans the air and provides habitat. It's biodegradable. And the artificial or plastic trees obviously are made from oil. They have a large carbon footprint and they're almost impossible to recycle. So I've included a link to a New York Times article, but just as you would tell your children or your students, if you do see articles that advocate for buying artificial trees, watch out, because when I was researching this, I found out that some of those were funded by the plastics industry. So the neutral research points to using real trees if possible. So keep that in mind as you do your holiday shopping. And now I am going to stop sharing my screen and let us ask some questions of our two guest speakers. And Sam, I will defer to you because you're probably good at this.
Let me bring them back on Spotlight. Give me 1 second.
So I'm excited of all the resources that both of our guest speakers have provided that can give us more ideas.
Yeah. So I did have 1 or 2 questions come in for each of you. The first one is for Cece, and pretty sure I know the answer to this, but photo cards, if people send those, I assume those are not recyclable.
No, yeah, it's the paper that they're made out of. The best thing to do is a digital, like an e-card, like an e-photo card, or sometimes there are printed on paper. Like I know, like Shutterfly, sometimes I'll get cards in the mail that are not on photo paper, but they're like on cardstock paper. Those are okay to recycle.
Okay, well that's good to know, because and that matte look is kind of cool too. I like that.
Yeah.
So, and Amy, you said you had something to contribute about the gift cards.
I do. I think I'm so glad that got brought up. Just because this aligns with the zero waste family that we've been raising over here. I live in Park Ridge, but I'm in Evanston now. I wanted to mention, if you also get anxious about the amount of plastic used on the gift card that you're using to replace to try to be zero waste, I was that person. And so I went out and bought a pick punch for creating guitar picks out of gift cards. And so it was always the best little family activity, because whenever we would have gift cards that were out of the gift, the donation and the funding there, we would then have this pick punch create guitar picks, and we've been donating them to our local elementary schools that are teaching music. So it's just kind of a fun way to actually really even extend that zero waste a little bit. And the music teacher that has received ours over the years has just said it's like the best day in the classroom to get like all these colorful, guitar picks out, because then they've also needed to stop purchasing them. So it's just one little addition.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
And also to add on the cards that we send in the mail that have glitter and pretty pictures on them, so they can't be recycled. I know that this is probably well known to our participants, but I tear off the front of those and I give them to like the local daycare or the Y, and the kids make crafts out of them. And there's a lot of programs like that. So if they can't go in the recycling bin, maybe you can get them reused one more time. Things like that.
Okay. Thank you. Can I, Amy, where did you find the punch to make guitar picks?
I'm actually going into Google right now to put it in the chat.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, great. Thank you. And then we'll just make you multitask a little bit, because I have a question for you also about how do you gauge how much food to make? I don't know about everybody, I'll speak for myself. I have that fear of running out of food when you have guests over. How do you gauge?
Yes, that is such a good question. And I married to a big family, and the Italian family is the idea of just like, you can't run out of food.
Abundance,
more is better. So again, I think that probably the best answer is to not fully get anxious about reducing the amount, if that is something that's going to help. It's not going to allow you to have fun at your own party. So I would say on the back end, make sure you just have, containers to bring home. The love food, hate waste might have a little bit of the, calculator there. I haven't really mastered that, because I am somebody who just would think less is more, because we always have more that my family has been providing over the years through the, tradition. I don't have the best answer for that, but I could look for a calculator and send it as a follow-up if that's the case. I'm not the most traditional rule of thumb person. I like to nail it by what I feel like making at the time. And again, the storage, sending home with guests is probably a good solution for making sure that the food's not wasted.
Yeah, I found one thing that said estimate a pound of food for every adult, half a pound of food for every child, and then divide it by how many dishes are you going to make, how many things are you going to ask people to bring. So
yeah, I think it's tricky, because also the idea of not even knowing if everybody's eating the same fare, and knowing there's so many dietary needs and restrictions and things like that. So I've kind of landed in the middle by just really focusing on the storage issue afterwards if we have more than.
Okay.
And again, I could talk more about the community fridge movement, but again, I believe that it's really more centralized to our city. And there's some suburbs around here, but that has become an option as long as it's labeled by the date and then the ingredients. This is another way to get single serve meals to the community fridges. But again, this is not unique to Chicago. This is a global effort, as well as, for sure in Chicago, we got all of the ideas from New York and California. So this is really happening across our country.
All right, great, thank you. I haven't had a lot of other questions. Oh, and having said that, yeah, so we do have this set specifically so that you can only chat to the hosts or co-hosts. I had somebody who asks how to chat to everyone. So what we are doing is, if you have suggestions that you'd like to share with the group, you can email those to me at sadams@balibrary.org, or to Jennifer Lucas at, let's see if I get this right, JJ Lucas.
I just put it in the chat.
Okay, excellent.
So no problem. And because yes, I think a lot of us have great ideas that we'd like to share. So we'll try to summarize those and include it when we send the recording.
Okay. And Jennifer, I'm not seeing your email address in the chat, so you might want to try that again.
That's because somebody was sending me a message. Hold on.
Okay.
I also wanted to add, Swank is a good resource. I'm not necessarily for holiday specific, but you know, if you have an item that you're looking, you're not really sure if you can recycle it, you're always welcome to call us and ask. We get people who call and will be like, I have a yogurt cup, I have a this, I have a that. We'll go through every single item they have, and we're happy to do it because you know, once you learn that that yogurt cup can be recycled, once someone verbally tells you yes, then you'll never forget it and you'll know. So we have a ton of guidelines and stuff on our website as well that are free to anybody to take and print and have as your resource. So
Okay, that's great. And I assume most of those are probably on your website too. So
yeah,
we'll
I can
include
send,
that.
it's just swank.org.
Yeah,
I can go ahead and
okay.
send it out there.
And we'll include that when we post the YouTube video. We'll put all of those links there as well, in case you're trying to keep up with them in the chat. So I had just one other thing that someone added when you were talking about the, you know, non-material gifts like gift cards, things like that, was also for families with kids, the idea of giving experiences,
Mhm.
classes,
Yeah.
park district classes, art classes, memberships, and then also the donations in their name. I know my mom did that with all of her grandkids every year. Was
Mhm.
they got something, but then they also sponsored through Heifer International, sponsored a critter for a
Mhm.
group, and it made an impression on them. So
I always think the gift coupons are cute where you're able to fill out your own little gift and give it, and then you're able to cash in your coupon at any time. I feel like I was
Right.
never able to use those coupons when I really wanted to, but they were still
Yeah.
good idea. So.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Look some up.
Like, I'll wash your
Alright.
car for you, Dad, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the reverse. Get out of
Mhm.
grounding free. Like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Oh,
Get out of jail free card. There you go.
yeah. And I just want to remind everybody that, again, it's like you're ambassadors of the message, and the holidays are the best time because you
Mhm.
can say what you did. Like, I gave my child a lesson, or I gave my mother-in-law tickets, and you know, share those ideas and tell people why you're doing it, and we can send the message to more people.
Yeah. I will say too, and it was a little controversial in my family when I started it, but I hosted Christmas at my house from like 1997 every year until 2018. And at a certain point, I said no more gifts between adults. You can give gifts to kids if you want to, you don't have to, but just no gifts between adults, kind of because of that thing you were talking about, Cecilia, where you get so many things that you're never going to use, you're never going to
Yeah.
wear. You
In my
know,
family, we do something similar, but we make a game out of it. So we usually, instead of getting adults gifts, we all buy X amount on a gift card, and then we make a game. Or that, okay, I don't want the plastic wrap, the waste is terrible, but the saran wrap ball game is one that we all do, but we'll put a ton, like nobody will give gifts. Everyone will put in a certain amount to the ball, and then we'll just have like tons of money and gift cards and little trinkets and things come out of that. And it just makes it a lot more fun. And again, then everybody's not opening gifts and producing
I was
all
going to
that
say, you're
waste.
going to have to send us a link to that. I've not heard of that one.
Oh,
So
it's like it's a fun game. It's like you wrap up a ton of different things in saran wrap, and you have to open it with like
Jennifer's
oven mitts on.
cringing.
No plastic.
She's like, no. It is a fun game. It's a fun game.
You could
I
use
like the
that,
scavenger hunt better. The scavenger hunt.
yeah, the scavenger hunt was fun. Maybe that waxed cloth you can use to,
Yeah, something that's
seal
not plastic,
things,
maybe.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have
I'll
any
say
other
too,
questions, or were there any more questions in the chat for you, Sam?
Nope, nothing else that came up. We did get a suggestion about elfster.com. Like I said, well, I'll gather all of these and add them to the notes in the YouTube video. But so far, so good, it looks like. One last suggestion is we did in our family for a while a charity chooser. Everybody put money in a hat. Didn't have to look and see what anybody else put in. And then people put the names of their favorite charity in another hat. And we drew a charity out of there, and all the money went to that organization. So it was, again, kind of that, made people be a little thoughtful about it and that sort of thing. So, all right, if there are no further questions, we will thank you very, very much for joining us today. We appreciate your time and your expertise. And I'll get the video posted, probably not later today, but certainly within the next few days, and I'll send a link to everyone who had registered for the program to let you know that it's ready, and I'm sure Jennifer will share the word as well. All right.
And
Thank
did
you,
you want
everyone.
to tell them about your upcoming library program? About
The
12 days of crafts or something?
Oh, yes, thank you. So the library does this program every year, 12 Days of Make, and I do not have, here it is. If you have our most recent, I'll put it right, no, there we go.
There you go.
It will be inside here, and 12 Days of Make starts November 7th. So next Monday, and every day you can come in and there will be activities in the meeting room where, you know, that thing about crafts where you just need the one thing, but it comes in a pack of 12. Well, we've bought everything for you and set it up so that you have just what you need to make the craft. So you can come in and do that with us here at the library next week. And then I'll do a commercial too for the next program that Jennifer and I are doing together. And we're very excited about this in January. As you can tell, we both like lit up. We're doing sustainable versus fast fashion with Amanda McCarty, who is the, among other things, created the Clothes Horse podcast. So
it's a very hard topic to find a speaker on. It's so we're very excited. So I'm sure I will be bombarding all of you with messages, but that's a January program on Zoom about sustainable fashion. So look forward to that.
Excellent. All right. All right. Thanks everyone for being with us, and we will look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Thanks you guys
Thank
for helping
you.
us. Thank you.
Have a great day.